Welcome to another session of personal finance training. Today we'll be looking at change within the context of COVID-19. This is presented by Accounting Lecture. Our aim is to get a better understanding of change, as I said before, within the context of COVID-19. A lot of changes are taking place as we see all over the world. So let's talk about change. Now, these are some of our objectives. 1. Define what is change. What are the steps to change? Examples of change in income. Others are living change, travel change, eating change. And then we'll conclude. Now let's look at the definition of change. What is change? Change is replacing something with something else, especially something of the same kind that is newer or better, substituting one thing for another. So we see here in the context of COVID-19 and personal finance, we're substituting something, this new norm, for the old. I mean, most of us may not necessarily accept it, but it is a change. Now let's look at the context of change generally in terms of why would we change. Now this is where we are changing. This change in terms of COVID-19 has been imposed upon us, so we're not the drivers to the change. So this situation has changed because we have had a scenario that causes us to change. But when it is that we have triggered a change, what's the reason for that trigger of that change? And the trigger of that change could be we've identified that there's a problem, we accept the problem, we then generate solution, accept setbacks and disruption, learn from failures, being patient, keep at it until changes occurs. These are some of the 7 steps to change and changing our circumstance. Now let's look at it in terms of personal finance, because personal finance is the core of what we do here in terms of personal finance training. Now, in terms of the income, let's look at it within the context of the UK. Let's say you're making £2,000 a month, and then, after COVID-19, that falls to 1,500, and 10 months in, it's 1,000. So you've had a 25% drop, then a 50% drop in your income. Now you can see the reality that is biting through in terms of how your personal finance would significantly change in terms of paying bills, mortgage, rents, credit card, etc. when your income has fallen so drastically over the period. Now we can also have a situation where your income increases, where you are making £2,000, then you start making £3,000, then you start making £3,500. So your income has increased over the period by 75%. Now, who are the winners here? People in the medical field who are working long hours would benefit from an increase in their income, and due to the fact that they are working on sociable hours, and also they're exposed to the virus on a daily basis, and therefore their life is at risk, and with that risk comes a premium in terms of payment, and so they would be the ones to be benefiting from an increase in their income. Now, in terms of what are some of the other changes that will take place, living situation will change. People are staying home for longer periods. There's loneliness. People can't move by buying another house or renting another house. There are impediments in that regard. I mean, things are easing in recent times, but historically we've been having impediments along that when lockdown was in full force. In terms of travel, you're not able to travel overseas. And if you have to travel overseas, you would need to quarantine before and quarantine after. So it could take you about 4 weeks altogether, about a month, just to travel from one location to the next. You can't go and visit families. You have to be in bubbles. You can't visit more than one person, and it becomes a bit of a mess in that regard. And you can also not travel locally. So if you are in one state, you can't travel to the next state, or if you're in one county, you can't travel to the next, because you do not want to have a situation where track and trace is you're contaminating others by not socially distancing yourself. So also changes in eating. People are not able to eat out, so restaurants are having difficulties there. People are eating for comfort, because they're sad. Mental health is suffering, and therefore they're sad, and filling that gap with eating. Some people can't afford the luxuries, and so therefore they have to change their diet in that regard. Some people have to skip a meal, especially those who have seen their incomes fallen significantly, or have had situations where they've lost their job, and so they have nothing. They have to get government support, and when you get government support, especially social services, your income falls significantly, and it's just getting by as opposed to being able to have a disposable. Now, what can we learn from the concept of change? Change is inevitable. Life will never be the same here on. And in terms of personal finance, I'm sure a lot of people are suffering due to their personal financial situation changing over the period. But there is hope. We can adapt to the new world, and we can adapt by training ourselves and getting further information. There is a training that would be coming on board within the next few weeks, the 1st of November to be specific. And the link below, I will leave some information in the link below, whereby you can get additional training on personal finance to develop yourself and be better. You can email me also at businessconsultingandtraining@gmail.com. That's businessconsultingandtraining@gmail.com. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you.